What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another Pokemon Sun and Moon Wi-Fi battle. Today I've got another OU match. This one is against Randy from Twitter, and I decided to throw together this team just because it seemed like they'd be pretty fun to use. I definitely wanted to bring back my man Paul because that dude, he's been looking for some action, along with the Magirna, just because that thing's a damn beast. And I also brought Contrary Superior, which is always fun to mess around with. So, looking at my opponent's team, I am afraid of the Thundurus. He's got a Mew, which also could be a threat. You never really know what to expect from those damn things. Then looking at his team, he also has a Venusaur, which I'm expecting to probably be Mega. One thing that I did notice from the team preview is that my Slowbro actually does very well against his team if I can get around a couple of the threats like the Thundurus and stuff. So I do want to conserve Paul. He's looking like he's going to be real useful for this one. And anyway, let's go ahead and just hop into the match here. So I'm expecting him to probably want to lead off with his Hippowdon to get up Stealth Rock and stuff. So I decide to throw out Face Paint. Mamoswine comes out here ready to kill some shit, as he actually ends up leading off with Infernape. And I do not really want to risk this thing going straight for the close combat on the first turn. I am Focus Sash, so I would be able to get my rocks up either way, but I do decide to play it safe here, and I'm just going to switch into my Hitmontop, which I actually thought was going to be Intimidate, but it turns out that I brought the wrong damn Hitmontop, so that's kind of a bummer. It doesn't really matter in this match a whole lot, but he goes for the U-turn, which I was expecting, but I didn't want it to land on my Mamoswine just because I didn't want my my Sash to be broken. So he actually ends up going straight into the Mew, and this little pink asshole is kind of scaring me because this thing could either start setting up some hazards, or it could like go for a nasty plot, or start setting up some way. So I actually just decided to switch right back into Mamoswine in case this thing wanted to go for Stealth Rock. I would still have my Sash intact. So he actually ends up going for the nasty plot on the switch, which is really scary for me because he actually has Aura Sphere, and that's definitely going to be able to knock me out. But luckily I do have a Sash, and this allows me to go for an Earthquake just to be able to get a little bit of damage to make sure that this thing is easier to kill later. So unfortunately, Mamoswine does take a whole bunch of damage, but the good news is that he doesn't have any hazards up, so I can bring Mamoswine back in later and not have to worry about dying. So I'm going to switch out here. I do want to save that thing just because I do have priority and stuff, so I'm just going to go directly into my Magirna, as he actually just ends up going for a Psychic this time, which is fine because I am Assault Vested, and that's going to allow me to take a hit from that thing. So he actually ends up having Flamethrower, which I was like, fuck, this Mew is just prepared for my team, bro. But luckily, since I am Assault Vested and I do have investment in my special defense, I am able to live that just barely, and that allows me to go ahead and kill this thing off with a Fleur Cannon, which is pretty sweet. That move is honestly so damn powerful. It does lower your special attack harshly, but that's kind of the price you pay, and honestly, I'm just stoked to see that Mew go down because I did not want to get swept early game by a Mew, so that's fantastic. Now he's going to bring in his Thundurus. This guy comes out here crossing his arms. He does not look impressed by my little bunny Pokeball gear thing, so he's just going to go straight for a knockoff, smacks me in the face, and that's going to kill my my Magirna, which is kind of a bummer. I didn't never even notice that that thing goes like into its Pokeball when it dies. That's pretty cool. But Thundurus shows me that he is Life Orb, so I don't have to worry about any type of choice. And at this point, I'm just going to bring in my Darmanitan because I know that I'll be able to outspeed, and a Rock Slide would end up killing this thing, but looking at his team, I know that he does still have that Hippo in the back. So I expect this thing to come out wanting to take pretty much any of Darmanitan's attacks. So I just go straight for the U-turn, which is nice because that's going to give me a little bit of momentum, and it allows me to decide what I want to bring in on this thing. So the Sandstorm's out here. I gotta put my damn Go Goggles on. Can't see a damn thing. So I decided to go into Face Paint. I'm like, you know, this thing might just start setting up some Stealth Rock or something. So I decided to bring in Mamoswine, and I'm gonna set up rocks of my own. So I could have gone straight for the Icicle Crash, but I figured that this Hippo probably wouldn't have been that difficult to take care of later. So I just decided that getting up my Stealth Rock was probably a bit more useful. And I know that the only defogger he has on his team is the Mantine. So I didn't think that he was probably gonna get a chance to get rid of those. So Mamoswine is going to go down to an Earthquake, but this allows me to bring in whatever I want, and I just decide to go straight into my Slytherin, so I'm ready to get some contrary action going. I know he does have this damn Venusaur, so I go for the Leaf Storm, and it is going to obviously raise my special attacks 2 stages, but I actually get a crit there, which is kind of funny. I thought it was doing more damage than it did, but I saw the crit, and I was like, well, tits. So I lose a little bit of health from my Life Orb, and then I'm getting hit by the Sandstorm, so that was the Venusaur. So, I mean, it's kind of interesting when you see people that have Sandstream setters on their team, and then like not really a whole lot of Pokemon that resist the Sandstorm, but doesn't really matter. But at this point, the Venusaur is going to Mega Evolve, so he does show me that he's Mega Venusaur, which I did expect. So this thing now has the Thick Fat ability, and I decided to go for the Hidden Power Fire, which doesn't really do a whole lot of damage thanks to the Thick Fat and all that shenanigans, so that's kind of a bummer, although I just didn't really have anything I wanted to switch into to take a Sludge Bomb from this thing. If I still had my Magirna, I probably would have gone for that, but unfortunately, my Superior is going to go down, but the reason why I left it in there is because it didn't really look all that useful for the rest of this match. Plus, after that thing goes down, I get a lot of momentum in being able to bring in my Darmanitan here, so I just go straight for the Earthquake. I knew that he went into the Hippowdon last turn, so expecting him to expect me to go for the U-turn, I just go straight for the Earthquake, and that's going to take care of the Mega Venusaur, which is pretty cool, and the Sandstorm goes away, so fun stuff. So now he goes into the Mantine, and obviously I'm locked into Earthquake, so there's nothing I can really do to this thing, so I have to switch out, and unfortunately for me, that's going to allow him a chance to go for the Defog and get rid of my Stealth Rock, which is kind of shitty. So I go into Groovin, who's not intimidating at all. He's got a fucking pink, like, sweatsuit going on. He looks pretty badass, but the Defog happens, and we lose the Stealth Rock, which kind of sucks, but honestly not too big of a deal. So at this point, I brought in Groovin just basically because he wanted to come out here and have a nice little dance party, so that happens, and then I also wanted to get a Toxic off on this Mantine, because these things are specially defensive as fuck, and getting a Toxic on that thing would be pretty damn nice. So he goes for a Scald, actually ends up getting a critical hit, but no burn, which is nice. I'll take a crit over a burn any day. Although I guess it wouldn't have really mattered a whole lot. My only attacking move that I have against this Mantine is Close Combat, and I guess Rapid Spin, if you want to count that. But Close Combat's not very effective, although these things don't have the best physical defense. So my plan at this point is I don't really need Hitmontop for the rest of this match. So I'm just going to leave this thing in here, and I actually expected him to want to probably switch out. So this turn, I'm going to go for the Close Combat, just trying to catch whatever he wants to bring in, although he actually just stays in and goes for another Scald. So it's looking like he's going to need a couple more of those to be able to take me out. So I go for the Close Combat. Obviously doesn't do a whole lot of damage here. He probably has defense investment because these things are so naturally specially bulky. So he gets his leftover. He's going to get hurt by some poison. Still grooving over here. We all need to learn a life lesson from him on top, and that is just keep dancing. So at this point, I realize it's probably a good time for me to bring in my Slowbro and potentially start setting up some Calm Minds. I know that he does still have the Thunderous out there on his team, so I figured if I'm able to get at least one Calm Mind, I know that I can take a Thunderbolt from the Thunderous and then be able to end up killing it with Psyshock. So I bring in Paul here. Luckily, I don't get a Scald Burn again. This man's unlucky with the Scald Burns, but he gets another crit, so I guess it's paying off for him. So he gets a crit there. Obviously, doesn't really do a whole bunch to Paul. Paul's out here just looking like a damn beast, ready to start setting up. So I'm just going to go for a Calm Mind here, and I honestly expected him to probably want to switch out into the Thunderous, but I knew that after I got a Calm Mind, plus the next turn of leftovers, I would be able to live an attack from it. So he actually ends up staying in, and he goes for the Scalds yet again. I wasn't really sure what that was about. I kind of expected either like Toxic or something like that, but he ends up just Scalding, which is fine by me because that allows me to basically get a free nice little special attack and special defense boost, and Paul's mind is calm as fuck at this point. Ain't nothing bothering this man, although nothing really bothers Paul anyway. I mean, he has a fucking like thing biting his tail at all times. This man is a master of handling stress. So I know that if he decides to keep his Mantine in here, it will die to poison next turn. So my plan is to basically just take this next Scald, luckily not get the burn, and then be able to go for a Slack Off, which is going to put me back at full, as the Mantine is going to basically kill itself to the poison. So Paul's sitting out here, he's at full health, he has +1 in special attack and defense. Special defense, that is, so I'm looking pretty damn solid here. So the Mantine is going to go down to poison. That's honestly like the longest I've seen somebody keep a Pokemon in with like a toxic poison, which honestly is fine by me. So now he's going to bring in the Thunderous, and I was like, okay, moment of truth. So he is not going to get hurt by the Stealth Rock, which kind of sucks because he defogged that shit away, but he goes for the Wild Charge, which shows me he's a physical Thunderous, which I was not expecting, but that's honestly perfect because obviously Paul is max defense, max HP, and that allows me to take that. He is going to hurt himself with the recoil, which I think contributed in this Psyshock being able to take that thing out. So down goes the Thunderous, and Paul's biggest worry is out of the way, so it's looking like I'm at a pretty decent point here. I'm at around 70 HP. And the good news is, if I end up switching out, I do have the Regenerator ability, which does heal you as the next time you come in. So he brings in the Infernape, and I'm just going to go ahead and switch out here, so that way Paul gets the Regenerator, and he looks nice and healthy next time I bring him in, as I'm just going to go into Hitmontop, and he actually just decides to go for the U-turn. Really not too big of a deal. I kind of just brought in Hitmontop just to be able to eat up any attack, and then pretty much just die at the end of the turn. So he's now actually just going to go into the Hippo, and brings back out the Sandstorm, and I'm like, oh Jesus, I forgot my fucking Go Goggles again. This is terrible. So I get hurt by a little bit of Sandstorm. That's going to put me in the red after leftovers, though. We chilling. We're at the damn picnic out here. Pretty shitty day. Got the Sandstorm out, but, you know, whatever. So I actually am able to outspeed, which is really nice. And this allows me to get a nice little close combat, and that's going to put that thing at under half, which is perfect, because that's going to make it so I will be able to easily take this thing out later. So he is going to actually hit me with the Rocky Helmet or whatever. I touched him, that fucking spiky-ass helmet, and he actually is able to take me out with an Earthquake, which is fine because I didn't need Hitmontop anymore anyway, and Paul is back and looking healthier than ever. So, I mean, I'm well in the green, and I'm looking pretty solid here. He is just going to go ahead and stay in and go for an Earthquake. I probably should have gone for the Slack Off here. I think that would have been the ideal play, but I just go straight for the damage, and a Scald is going to take out your hungry-ass Hippo. So it's looking like Slowbro should be able to finish off the match here, considering his last Pokemon is the Infernape. So I get hurt by a little bit of Sandstorm, eat some leftovers, really not too big of a deal. I'm a little bit under half, and depending on what his moveset is on his Infernape, we could have some trouble, but honestly, he brings this thing in, it's still at full health, so I know one attack isn't going to be able to take this thing out. So he goes for the Gunk Shot. He actually locks himself into Gunk Shot. I'm assuming that was probably his best option. I think he probably has that for fairies, but Gunk Shot does do a decent amount of damage, and I go for the Psyshock, which doesn't quite knock this thing out, but it's looking like 2 more Sandstorm turns is going to be able to knock it out. So the next Sandstorm will kill this thing, although Paul is looking like I don't want to risk it being able to take another Gunk Shot. If he gets max damage or something, I could be pretty screwed. So I decide to play it safe here, and all I really have to do is go into my Darmanitan, eat up a Gunk Shot, and then be able to let the Sandstorm pretty much finish off the match for me here. But he goes for the Gunk Shot. It's going to do a decent amount of damage to Browse on Fleek as the Sandstorm actually subsides. And I was like, no, it's chill. I'm Scarf. I'll be able to outspeed. But he's actually Choice Scarfed also, and that means he's going to be able to outspeed me. And down goes my Darmanitan, which my last Pokemon now at this point is my Slowbro. But luckily, since the Regenerator ability activated, my slowest bro is looking like I should be able to handle this. So he goes for one more Gunk Shot. Actually doesn't even miss a Gunk Shot, which is kind of remarkable. But I'm obviously able to eat that up, and then one more Psyshock is going to take care of the Infernape. So that was a pretty interesting battle. It kind of came down to Slowbro's Regenerator really just putting in the finest of work. So that's going to be the end of that one, guys. Thank you all for watching. Hit that like button if you enjoyed, and I'll have some more Wi-Fi battles up soon. Peace out.